You know, I think about us, the three of us, what we could be. I think about it all the time.
Please. It's terrible.
No, it's not. I know June. She's my friend. I care about her. How's your day going? You look pretty.
Thanks. I wore it just for you. Her father's a driver named Nick. He helped me to survive. Yes, you can, because I can't lose you.
I'm not gonna let anything happen to you.
What about you?
Your girlfriend is a badass.
Welcome to Above the Garage, a Nick and June, the Handmaid's Tale podcast.
Hi, friends. Welcome to our spoiler-free analysis of Season 2, Episode 11 of The Handmaid's Tale. This episode is entitled Holly. Let's do our round of introductions and dive in.
Hi, I'm Ginger.
Hi, I'm Scarlett.
I am Megan.
Hi, I'm Claudia.
And I'm Kate. So the last episode left us, they just taken Nick away and she is alone in the house. So this one opens with her running away from the house and just kind of realizing how isolated she is. But she sees the garage, which seems promising. So she's trying to break into the garage when she realizes that there's something watching her, and it is a black wolf, which I think scares her at this point, although maybe she feels differently later in the episode.
I mean, she's panicking, right? Right at the start of the episode, you see her panicking because Nick is gone, the car is gone. She tries to run after the cars, which is like impossible, even if she weren't 9 months pregnant or 8 months, we don't know. But then she goes back and she sees the garage and she is so determined all of a sudden, and she tries to kick it in. She's highly pregnant. I don't know how she gets the power to do anything, because I would be paralyzed and just lie there and cry, but she goes and does shit to get out.
I imagine there's a lot of adrenaline coursing through her body too, because it's very scary.
And then when the wolf comes, she looks scared again for a second, but then she goes back into being powerful, and now she's like, she doesn't want to be small and scared, and suddenly she gets the power look again.
Strength, yeah.
It's like a roller coaster the whole time.
And as she goes back into the main house, she says, "I'm sorry there's so much pain in the story. I'm sorry it's in fragments. Like a body caught in a crossfire, pulled apart by force, but there's nothing I can do to change it. I tried to put some of the good things in as well." And she's searching the house. There's no power. She finally finds Hannah's room with the dollhouse, and she finds pictures of Hannah like fishing with Miss Mackenzie and a drawing she drew of her with her new family. And that's really sad.
It looked like there was like a Martha and a guardian that was in that drawing, which is just sad considering that's her family now.
Mm-hmm.
It is. It's heartbreaking. Like, this is her life. This is normal to her now. And I feel like maybe June hadn't thought, I'm gonna discover Hannah's room, so it kind of took her off guard.
It wasn't really Hannah's room. It was the office, and there was the dollhouse in, I guess, like, she was allowed to play it in the office because it's the same room where the desk was, right? Thought that was Mr. Mackenzie's
I think so.
office, and she just had the dollhouse in there.
Well, it's nice she's allowed to play in the office. I guess I just assumed it was her room, but it makes sense with her drawing that it would be his office. Well,
I think it's hard too, though, for June to see like this is the remnants of Hannah's childhood now, like it's not, and June's not a part of it.
Yeah. Hannah looks happy too, so that's also kind of like a stab in the heart for her, because she sees that Hannah's, obviously loved, and as of now, she's still a young girl, quote unquote, taken care of, even though it's Gilead and we know it's going to be horrible. So that obviously has to be very painful for her to see that, Hannah kind of moved on, because she's 8. She's obviously going to have to move on, and she was brainwashed. So, but it has to be very hard.
Right. I think that. And it's what this show does best, both like heartbreaking, and it's also good that she's happy and loved, right? But
right.
I would also feel awful. Awful. They're very good at making us feel awful.
I think that's why she has the flashback, though, because she sees the drawing of her current family. And then she has the flashback to having to leave Hannah, which obviously Hannah was just taken from her. And the woman had said, the teacher had said, like, oh, she wouldn't, when you leave your mom, she goes in and makes drawings of her family. So like, I think that's what triggered that for her.
She has so much power, and then she goes and sees the picture of Hannah, and that's where she completely breaks down, because you see a falling down into the chair and
Mhm.
finally taking a second to let herself fall a bit.
Yeah.
Because I mean, the
Mhm.
situation is so horrifying.
Right.
And she's going up and down, and
It is an emotional roller coaster for real.
Yeah.
For sure.
Mhm.
It's not surprising at all that she went into labor. Like after all she
Yeah.
no, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
There's a voiceover in the script that was cut. I mean, there's quite a few voiceovers that are cut in the script because the script was available, I guess, because it was nominated.
Mhm.
And right at the beginning, she says, when I was little, my mom would never take me to those princesses movies. I remember hating her for it, but now I know why. In the real world, you can't wait for a prince. I thought that was really cool. So I'm sad they cut that.
Yeah, so June's remembering having trouble saying goodbye to Hannah at school. I think most of us have been through that exact moment.
Mhm.
And it's pretty funny when the teacher says, I bet you remember this with your mom too. And I love how June says, yeah, no. And it probably makes it harder for her because, you know, she doesn't want to let go.
And it's hard enough to drop your kid off at like daycare or school where you know they're going to be cared for versus like she just said goodbye to Hannah, who was ripped away from her again. And you know that she's not going to be safe in the long run, you know?
Right.
I found it the situation where the school teacher, or I don't know if it was pre-K or school or whatever,
Yeah.
the teacher takes it from her and basically rips her a bit out of her arm,
Yeah.
and Hannah screams after her, and June starts crying, and this was the normal real world.
Right.
And
Mm-hmm.
and then you go to Hannah screaming for her exact the same way.
Yeah. Except for good this time. Yeah.
So much worse. Yeah.
Right. It's a terrible memory for her to get lost in at the moment, back when she actually like had her to keep. Yeah, so she's remembering it and it hurts, you know, a billion times more now. But you can see her like snap out of it and try to compartmentalize again because she's like, I know I can't get lost in this any further, or I'm not going to be able to do what I have to do. And she finds some keys to the garage and she uncovers the car inside and turns it on. And who is on the radio but Oprah Winfrey with some good news about America. So it's kind of an uplifting moment. America's not all gone. There's still like efforts being made, you know, and Oprah's still alive. So that counts for something, right?
Hallelujah.
And I love that they played Hungry Heart by Bruce Springsteen because that's such an American musician.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, I feel like it's very uplifting. Like things look pretty bleak for her right now. She's stuck here with no way out. And she's about to give birth like any minute now.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like just that little scene of her hearing that on the radio, like gave her hope, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. I also asked my brother what kind of car that was, and my dad. And after much discussion and bringing another car buddy into it, they seem to have confidence that it's a 74-75 Camaro. I don't know the relevance, but that's
She wasn't going to be seen if she was able to leave in that car.
right. A racing
Yeah.
Very
stripe.
simple. Very Gilead.
When we were hearing the radio, the voice on the radio, obviously we know it's Oprah. There's a part where she says, the news, the American government in Anchorage today received promises of economic aid from India and China, as well as a reiteration of support from Russia. In the United Kingdom, additional sanctions on Gilead were announced, as well as plans to raise the cap on American refugees relocating from Canada. And I just thought if that maybe changed after the letters got out, because we obviously haven't heard anything about the politics up until the Waterfords go to Canada, and we see it in the past episodes. So I wonder how, you know, that maybe changed a little bit for the fall of fucking Gilead.
Yeah.
True.
Well, yeah, they would definitely raise the cap and allow more in, knowing that they're seeking true like asylum, that they're persecuted. So you'd hope they would let more in.
Mm-hmm.
But what I really liked about this scene though too, I feel like it's a parallel to her being in the car in episode 2 of this season when she's at the Boston Globe. But it's kind of like opposite, because when she was in the car in episode 2, like that was the very beginning of her pregnancy, and she was not in a good headspace, obviously, and she was desperate to find Hannah and run away, and Nick was there. And this time it's the opposite. Nick is not there. She's at the end of her pregnancy. She started out like in a bad headspace when she got in the car, and like Hannah was just taken from her again. Nick was taken from her. But hearing this little snippet of the radio was like finally some good news, like something, you know, she doesn't have Nick or Hannah or anybody to give her hope right now, but at least she had that, like knowing there's people out there fighting. And so maybe all is not doom and gloom right now.
Yeah, because she probably has wondered, like, is anybody fighting for us? Is anybody, you'd think, is it completely hopeless, or are there people out there that know what's going on and will help eventually come? I'm sure a lot of people are there waiting for help, and that probably kind of empowered her a bit, thinking, oh, okay, they know what's going on.
Yeah, and I feel like in both of these scenes, like in episode 2, she was determined, but it was more of like determined based on fear.
Right.
And like she was being reckless. And this time, like you can see her get that determination back, but it seems more, I guess, powerful. Like she's not as reckless. Like I don't know. Well, she's more like fiery now. Like she's
empowered. Yeah. Getting ready
more confident, I guess. Not based on fear as much.
Yeah. I kind of felt that the message in the radio kind of fueled her a bit too.
Right.
Because she was starting to cry a bit and talking to the baby, and then she's like, fuck it, and starts to make a plan what she's going to do.
And I like seeing her talk to the baby, because there were so many times, especially like in the middle of the season, where she was purposely not connecting with the baby. Mm-hmm. And now she is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like when she got like, fuck it, and went inside with purpose. Because at first I was like, fuck it, she's giving up. But then you see her gathering stuff, and not at all. She's just been smart about it.
Did somebody think about how close she maybe is to Canada? Because the radio seems to be from Canada, I think. I mean, the Great White North is probably Canada, right?
That's where they're broadcasting from. Yeah, Canada for sure. That's where, I don't know how close June is, but Oprah was doing her broadcast from Canada, the Great White North. Yeah.
Yeah, but she has to be a bit close, because otherwise she wouldn't have been able to get the signal, right? I would think that Gilead tried to get all communications cut off.
Probably not from commanders, though. They probably have free reign.
I would think the towers, like the towers are still there. Like Fred was using a laptop back in, I don't remember which episode, the middle of the season. So obviously there's internet. So they
all communicate.
I don't think this lake house is that far away from the waterfront.
Yeah, we know that they had 3 hours to get there and back and do whatever they're doing. So they probably only traveled like an hour. Yeah. And Boston is 548 miles from Canada. So they're not that close. They're still in the 400 plus miles from Canada. But yeah, no, I like the thinking, and that makes sense.
There's also another cutscenes in the script. When she's in the car, she's thinking, she says, this was cut. If we go, it's just you and me. No going back for anyone, not your father, and not, obviously she can't say the name Hannah. Trying to follow or find her or Nick would be suicide. And then she says, she'll forgive me. They both will. I hope they will. And I was also really sad that they cut that, because it kind of shows she obviously does not want to leave Hannah. Hannah's always her main priority, but it shows that she's also thinking about Nick. It's important for her, and leaving him is also something that's going to be very painful for her.
We see and hear her talking and thinking about Hannah, so that's there. But that the fact that she didn't even once think about Nick, I think it's like no way, because she was, I mean, we get into it later, but she was so scared for the baby. She wants this baby to survive. It's her and Nick's baby. So of course she would think about him.
You're right. Not one time does she, but you never hear her think about Nick in the show, right?
But you do see it in the cut script notes. So I just wonder why they why did they do that? Because there's so many script notes that clearly show that if they said that, you would know she's thinking of Nick.
Maybe what you just said, maybe obviously she's thinking about him, so they don't feel the need to overstate it. But I'd love it if they did.
I kind of understand why they made this episode her,
sure.
She also is thinking about him further down, and I understand why they would cut that, because this is all about her and motherhood and all that. I understand that, but I figured it was kind of important to add it because I don't know if you guys get the same feeling, but sometimes I think the show sometimes gives more attention or highlights more Luke's journey with fatherhood versus Nick's journey with fatherhood. And I think they're both equally important.
But to your earlier point, though, about this episode being about June, like I definitely get that. And I think that's fine. But Nick is still a part of June's life. And I don't think it takes away from this being about her, just for her to say out loud to her baby, we're not going to leave, we're going to leave your father and your sister and not come back for them. I don't think that takes anything away from that.
The intent was there because I read an interview with a writer, with Kara Snyder, and she says it, when she thinks about Luke, is it the hope that she'll see him again? That means leaving behind Nick, the father of her child. So the memories both help and haunt her. She just has herself and her inner strength to save herself and her daughter. So the intention was there, at least from the writer, which I think, is important to also know that.
But I think it's this was good that Nick wasn't there. I mean, of course, I hate that he couldn't be there, but
for the story,
the fact that it was only centered on her, the birth, showed her growth so much,
and her strength, her obvious strength.
And
in relation to like her mom, like it worked really well with those flashbacks.
Exactly. And so if Nick would have been there and helped her, of course we would have loved to see it, but
that would have just been for us.
Yeah, it would have made it just a completely different story. I really think that coming back to the episode 10 moment where she had the Braxton Hicks contractions and Nick got her out of the car and guided her up. I really think after they left Serena behind and went inside, I mean, she had probably at least one contraction while he guided her upstairs, right? So I had now, he helped her at least through one contraction.
One breath.
That's all we get. One
These
contraction.
are the scraps that we like dine on.
We cling to.
Yes. Okay. So she goes back inside and starts gathering items she may need, blankets, first aid kit. She packs it all into a backpack and heads back to the garage, loads it in the car, and then looks down at herself and sees a lot of red.
I was thinking about this. I feel like when she was realizing like what she was wearing, I feel like she was thinking of Nick's words from episode 2, where he said, "You're a pregnant handmaid. Everybody will be looking for you."
Yeah.
And that was back when she was like 5 weeks pregnant. So I feel like this is her thinking like, oh shit, like I'm a 9-month pregnant handmaid wearing bright red. Like maybe I should go change.
Right.
She was a walking target.
Not Scarlett's pointing out the car to me. I guess really doesn't matter if she's going to get in the car and go. So she heads back in and she goes to Mrs. McKenzie's wardrobe and is funnily shocked when she opens it and finds only teal wives' dresses. And then she thinks to go to Commander McKenzie's and goes for the suit jacket.
I feel like though she probably wouldn't have fit into the wife's clothing, but I feel like she kind of looked at it and was like, I can't do that because it reminded her too much of Serena.
Yeah,
so I feel like that's like just the principle. She probably was like, okay, like
no,
what does Commander suck? Like that's better than dressing like Serena.
Yeah. So then she remembers she's at the Commander wardrobe and looking at herself in the mirror, and she remembers getting ready for a party in the before times with Luke when she's also super pregnant and gorgeous. She's so pretty in that black like fitted dress with the open back. Oh, she's beautiful. Elizabeth Moss is beautiful. Anyway. Luke's, being super sweet and saying she's awesome. And they both tell the baby Hannah that they're ready for her to come out.
For this flashback, like, I definitely think she's obviously thinking of Luke, but I feel like it was kind of more than just him. I feel like, she's looking at the black commander coat, which reminds her of the black dress, and just remembering, like, how completely opposite this birth is going to be from Hannah, right? Because when she was with Hannah, she had a partner. They were looking forward to the birth of this baby. They were ready for her, like wanting her to come out. And this time she had no choice in getting pregnant. Her partner was just taken from her. Her baby is going to be taken from her, and she's completely alone. So I feel like she is probably missing Luke, but I think it's just more complicated just because this whole birth scenario could not be any more opposite as it was with Hannah.
Oh, yeah.
Down to the fact that I think that Nick and June especially right now, does not want the baby to come out right now, you know?
Yeah.
The baby's theirs as long as it doesn't come out, and especially with this new potential to maybe escape. But this scenario is, like you said, polar opposite.
This would be the absolute worst time to give birth.
Yeah, literally.
Mhm.
And so of course that's what will happen.
Of course.
Then she hears the car pulling up and looks outside, and it's the usual Mercedes SUV. I don't know if she hoped it was Nick briefly, but she didn't. She looked kind of like, I mean, you could see Serena basically in the front pretty quickly, so probably she didn't have that moment. But then you see she's, devastated. Things have changed dramatically now, and the Waterfords come in yelling for Offred and Nick, Commander McKenzie even, and Serena is like, I'm not leaving without my baby. And Fred wants to just leave, which is like crazy, because they should, were it me, I would obviously look around the house. Even when she convinces him to look around the house, I would look around the house like a lot better than they do.
Well, he is so dumb and delusional here.
Oh,
He's
yeah,
like,
the whole conversation is,
he's like, we shouldn't be here. Well, you're the one who sent them here, you dumbass.
yeah, yes. And that's your biggest
Yeah.
concern?
Well, she's dumb too, though.
Oh yeah.
Serena's dumb. She comes in screaming, Fred, like she's gonna like beat the crap out of her.
Yeah.
Like June's gonna be like, oh, here I am. It's like, no, do you remember the last time that when she like choked her out at the window after her first escape attempt? It's like, maybe you should have come, Fred. Like,
Right.
are you okay?
She doesn't care.
But instead she's like, Fred, like in the most wicked voice. I'd be like, okay, I'm hiding.
But then Fred's like, I'm sure Nick will check in soon. Okay, like
What is
really,
that?
you really think he's gonna check in? Like, come on.
And they've been
But-
gone long enough that they came out here to find them. So it's been a while. And how's he gonna check in?
Right, they're not there, so and
Where
they're
do you
late.
think they went that they're gonna check in?
Right.
She's right. They've either run away or something terrible's happened. There's no scenario where Nick is checking in with you anytime soon.
I love this scene so much because it is my favorite Waterford scene ever. Because they
Yeah.
are both like, all bets are off here. Like, there's no more like playing around, trying to like play their games with each other. Like, they are both just pissed off and so bluntly honest with both their hatred for each other. And I just think it's really entertaining.
Yeah.
I enjoy it immensely too.
They're alone. Nobody's there to hear them.
Yeah.
They can't do that in the house because I'm guessing that's not Gilead like.
Not proper.
So they still have to be civil to each other. And now that they think that they're alone, they're like a typical miserable marriage that
Yeah.
have been dragging their issues for the longest time. I've said it before, like they had a nice marriage before, they were pretty balanced. And after everything that's happened, I mean, we see what Serena tells him. She's obviously bitter about it after everything also that has happened, because obviously she's the one that created this. But, it's really fun to see just an actual marriage, like, over, like their marriage is over.
Right.
Like it had been over. But yeah, it's hilarious.
They have disdain for each other. You can tell they're just like, oh.
They're over it. Yeah.
Well, plus they're scared and desperate. So like they're not in the mood to like play their little games where they try to like placate each other or play,
Mhm.
like manipulate each other. They're just being like as honest as they feel.
But and as much as I like can't stand Serena, I do at least appreciate she's not as idiotic as Fred is here. When he's like, Nick wouldn't be disloyal, and she's like, how are you stupid? They hate you. They hate you. You just raped her yesterday. They've always hated you. She keeps running away from you. I like that line for some reason, even though
I love that.
like demeaning, like a child maybe, but it's funny.
I like that Fred clarified that was your idea.
Yeah.
Yes.
It was
the rape.
Serena's idea
Yes.
to rape June.
You orchestrated that rape, Serena. It's not just on me.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I thought it was really interesting that she used the word rape because obviously like she
You'd
she
think
knows
she would
what-
want to like tone it down in her head or something, but she didn't.
yeah
Yeah.
she knows what she did and
Yeah.
like it's I don't know, I just think it's interesting that she used the word rape, obviously, because obviously ceremonies are rape, but then obviously we talked about how that rape scene was truly like horrifically rape, so obviously she knows that it was wrong, but then she's acting like it's totally his fault, like it like it was his idea. It's like he's trying to be noble, saying, well, I did it to fix your mess.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
God, it's so twisted. I raped her for you. Like, no, that is no.
True love.
True love. You raped her for
I think
me.
when he said that, he's talking about sending her to see Hannah to fix her rape mess, as if it was not
Right.
his
Right.
Yeah, that makes more
rape.
sense.
But like,
Mhm.
no matter
Maybe.
what, I'm just saying everybody's like really guilty, and none of this whole conversation is ridiculous. Yeah,
They're
Mhm.
trying to justify it.
Obviously, he knew what he was doing was wrong too, you know?
obviously. So just the
Yeah, they
argument
know.
over that is insane.
Yeah.
Also enjoy that she's like, you sent. How did she say it? I didn't
Her
write it
out
down.
here with the father of her baby to see her daughter. What did you think was
Exactly.
going to happen? That she was
Yeah.
going to go home and thank you? Sorry.
I love that so much.
And he'd said, I don't know if it was before or after, but he said, like, I let her see her child. She'd be grateful. Like, he planned
Yeah,
this
of
all out in
course.
his head. And yes.
I mean,
Oh.
yeah, you raped me yesterday, but you're such a kind man for letting me see my daughter that you ripped, you orchestrated to get kidnapped because of the system that you guys created. But I am grateful. Of course, fucking asshole.
But again, he's so delusional. Like, it's like, does he forget that Nick is a father? I mean, he obviously does not understand the depth of their love.
No, he just
No,
thinks sperm
Never,
donor.
never.
Doesn't
it
understand
never
their
gets through to him.
relationship because
Right.
why on earth would you? I mean, there's been other times where they've sent June in the car with other guardians, like Serena, at least.
Mhm.
Like in episode, the season 1 finale, when she had the other guy drive them to go see Hannah because she knew Nick was not going to be the one to do that, or a good idea for that.
Yeah.
So, like, obviously, Fred is just too dumb to think about. Maybe I shouldn't send her alone with the father of her child.
Right.
Fred thinks love doesn't exist. Love is only lust with a good marketing campaign. He said that.
Yeah.
So he doesn't
Mhm.
believe that there is really true love out there. So, and he thinks Nick is loyal because he never showed him
Right.
that he actually is working against him and not for him. So
Right.
It's not like he's
Yeah.
ever showed him any actual like real loyalty that we've seen though either. So it's
Mhm.
funny to me that he's so sure of his loyalty.
he just
Yeah.
works for him.
He just
Point.
drives him around and puts up with
Yeah.
him talking to him. He doesn't even like engage.
I also like how the conversation shows you like how dangerous Gilead is, because even though they are obviously Gilead believers, they shouldn't be there. Fred says it at the beginning. That's why they want to
Yes.
leave quickly. But then Serena says, like, what are we going to do? Like, how are we going to fix this? We can't explain it. We can't report it. To have a pregnant handmaid run away once is bad enough, but twice, they'll say
Mhm.
we're part of the resistance. So it's very, Gilead is obviously, we know, based on fear. It's a very fragile loyalty that these people can have, because if you're seen as a threat, they're just going to put you on the wall. And obviously, because of that, we get that wonderful line of, they'll put us on the wall. Yeah, maybe they'll hang us side by side. Just my fucking luck.
I love that.
Amazing.
Mhm.
I want to point out how amazing they both were, Yvonne and Joseph,
Mm-hmm.
in that scene. I mean, it's glorious.
It's such a silent episode too, that to
Yeah.
have this like outburst in the middle is just, the dichotomy is even more delightful. All the things that they think of in the show are amazing to me.
I thought it was interesting too, because Serena always treats June like a child, and she tells Fred, like, you have a sick infatuation with that girl. So once
Mhm.
again, she's a 34-year-old woman and she still can't call her a woman. She still has to call her a girl.
But it
Mhm.
delights me a little that Serena is feeling that she knows that June has like everything she wants. That's all. If you're gonna rape her and shit, I'm gonna enjoy you being miserable.
Well, I mean, Serena also, I like how she says, I gave everything up for you. Like, you don't give up anything for any man, I would say. And she was so strong before Gilead in the flashbacks. And then she says this, I gave up everything for you and for the cause. And I only ever wanted one thing in return, which was a baby. And you see her here kind of weak because she literally has nothing, but she's blaming Fred. She's not blaming herself. I mean, she obviously had a lot to do with this.
Yeah.
These were her choices, but
But
you know, it's
Yvonne
like,
is amazing. I
yeah,
love Yvonne in this, Dexter, and everything, just for the record.
But she's also so sweet in real life.
Mhm.
Does anybody know if she was pregnant in this season?
Yeah, she
Because
was.
I remember that she was, when he pushes her at the wall, when he gets really angry, when she dares to say that he's obsessed with June, he pushes her against the wall, and all I was thinking was about, was Yvonne pregnant here? I really was, oh my God, it looked so hardcore, like really violent. Yeah,
Well, hopefully it looked worse than it actually was.
for sure it did, but yeah.
So during that part, June's got a shotgun that she's loaded and she has trained on them. And I can't believe she didn't pull the trigger. I mean, obviously this is a show, so I get it. But in real life, I would have pulled that trigger. I don't care. After having suffered through what she had.
I would have too.
My theory is this, that she's not ruthless like they are. Like, she's showing her humanity here. Like, if you want to compare June and Serena, like Serena says all she wants is her baby, and June wants her baby too, like both of her babies that she was forced to give up, you know, partially because of Serena. But June is not willing to destroy other people to get what she wants like Serena is. And it just shows how June is capable of being a human, unlike Serena, who just literally does not care about anybody but herself and what she wants.
Also certain death for her if she does kill him. If they find her there and they're blown to bits.
If she's thinking of escape, though, it's
Right.
necessary. If she really believes she can escape right now, is unlikely and not accurate. But if she thinks she can, then that would be protecting her baby so that she can get away.
Right.
As well as she got raped yesterday, and I would kill those.
She should kill them, but
Yeah.
I get it. I understand.
I think it was because of that, because they didn't want to show her as being ruthless.
But it's funny because it's the Serena like losing it, like Serena like brokenness that makes her say her hand, you know?
Yeah.
It's when she's saying, I'm nothing, I've got nothing, you've left me nothing, and she's saying nothing over and over and over again. And that's when June's like, I can't do it.
It's ironic though that June can empathize with Serena as a woman, but Serena cannot empathize with June as a woman. Like it's incredible to me.
Right. So finally Fred does convince Serena to leave, and my last note on that again was they did not do a very good job of searching the house, especially after they found her cloak and they know for sure that she's been in there, she's changed. I would look a little harder, but the car is gone. Okay, I get it. They think that they're on the run, I suppose.
Well, it's such a big house too. Like, they obviously didn't look everywhere.
It's huge. So then June goes into.
She goes down. Yeah, she goes down to look if they really have left, and then she takes a breath and thinks, okay, now I can do this. We can leave now. I can try to flee, and suddenly the first contraction hits.
Yeah, so Holly's touring her around the birthing center. She's pushing for her to do the midwife, doula, birthing center scene. And my God, that room looked nice. Like, I just would go there right now for a couple nights. It was like the nicest bath. It was such a serene room. And she's telling her and Moira how she had an unmedicated birth, which I think is really cool for people that are involved in helping other people with birth. Because I think it's nice if you're going to tell other people how to get through something that you know how it would actually feel to get through an unmedicated birth. But June is not into that. And she's like, I don't know. I kind of want just like nurses and doctors and medication, drugs. Yeah.
I feel her.
I do too.
I wanted drugs, but I got unmedicated, so I get it.
I did too, almost the whole.
How was it?
I got to like 8 centimeters unmedicated, and no.
Honestly, I thought it was going to be something that I wasn't going to be able to do. I mean, I asked for drugs and my doctor came late. So I was already ready to push. So I couldn't have any sort of medication. And yes, it was very painful, but I didn't pass out. I was able to do it. So it was kind of, I guess, cool in a way after I came to terms with the whole thing.
Yeah, you're like, yes.
You're a badass, and that's awesome.
Yeah, you did it.
And it was fast though.
I wonder why is it you can't do it like later? I mean, if the baby's coming out, I get it, but like.
Well, I remember I had a very weird kind of vision of pregnancy because I didn't do any birthing classes. I gave birth by myself too. Like, obviously my mom was there, but my daughter's father wasn't there.
Right.
And I remember saying, I do not want to be in labor for a long time. Like, that was what I was scared of. So I asked to speed it up. So I got Pitocin. That's the medication that I got. It was a fast birth. So I got there at 6 a.m. and by 10 a.m, like Camila was already out. So
really
but no pain for anything. So yeah, it was actually pretty fast.
4 hours. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's awesome.
Claudia, you were saying you asked for no meds?
I went into it with my first one, thinking I'm scared of the epidural. I don't want it. And then it all went really to shit after a really long, not really long time. I think I was there for about a day before it went down south. And that's when it was too late for medication, so I had to pull through, and then it ended in an emergency C-section. So we had it all.
You really did experience all of. I'm sorry.
And for the second one, I still didn't want any medication, and I did a natural birth for the first second, because I wanted, like, I had the rush. I wanted to. It sounds stupid, but I wanted to do it the right way, even though there is no right way. But I wanted to.
That's not stupid though.
No.
I wanted to experience it like it was supposed to be. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted. And I had to have 2 scheduled C-sections because my daughter is my oldest and she was breech. Actually, she was transverse, which of course I was devastated that I had to have a C-section. But my doctor's like, if this was like years ago when they didn't have, medicine, she's like, you would have died in childbirth.
Yeah.
So
I would have died too.
Yeah, I don't know what a contraction actually feels like. I mean, I had bad Braxton Hicks, but I never it makes me really sad that I don't know what it's like to be in labor, even though obviously it wouldn't be fun,
I've seen those, like, my kids watch these YouTube births.
Oh, wow.
And I think that they can create the feeling of contractions for you, Ginger, if you find the correct.
I love it when they strap those on the guys. They're like, it's like a electro pulse, and it like creates cramps for the men. It's hilarious. Yeah. Watch those videos. It's hilarious. The men are rolling around. They're like squealing.
Everybody, I hate when moms are like, they have babies and they come out on the other side saying, like, I didn't have the experience I wanted, or didn't, I had C-sections and I was okay with it, but I know so many people that weren't, and it's just so sad. And I hate that. I hate that for Ginger.
Well, yeah, like I'm looking back, I'm glad I had a C-section with my daughter, because if I didn't, I wouldn't have been in the hospital for 4 days. And we found out that I was producing like 0 milk. So she was basically starving. So when they came in when she was like 3 days old, because I had her on a Friday afternoon. So of course the weekend, like nobody's
the weekend shifts. Yeah.
So when they came, so she like kept crying and crying, like, and I was crying myself because I'm like, what am I doing wrong? And then they came in Monday and she lost 12% of her body weight, which is dangerous for them to go more than 10. So like she was basically starving and we didn't know it. So like, I think to me, like that was for a reason that it all happened that way. Cause I wouldn't have been in the hospital if I had like the birth I wanted. So, I mean, it worked out, but I think, everybody has expectations of what they want, and it,
exactly,
when it doesn't go that way,
Yeah. Well, I assume we're talking about labor in some manner. Oh yeah. Okay. So she's telling,
she wants doctors.
She wants doctors and nurses and a lot of drugs. And Holly says, you're stronger than you think, which is definitely true of our June. And then June, I don't know if she meant to say this even, but it slips out that she's like, oh, you won't even be there. And she's like, and Holly's like, what do you mean? Of course I'll be there. And she's like, oh, you have a lot of important work. And Holly's like, I'll definitely be there. And June's like, don't make promises you can't keep. And of course, she ends up not being there.
Holly says, and what, I think it's more important than you.
Yes.
Like she was shocked that June believed that her work was more important than her. And I guess she realized that that was one of her mistakes, like putting so much into her work. She has a reason to,
Right.
But you see that wedge between them, like throughout the flashbacks, even though there aren't that many, because June wanted some things that Holly maybe she really didn't agree with because of how things were going in the country. I thought that was kind of like a sad part when Holly realizes, oh, maybe I wasted time, because her daughter's telling her how she feels indirectly.
Yeah, like June wanted her to go to her sports games and shit, I feel like, and there for that stuff. But then Gilead happened, so you can't fault Holly entirely.
But I think June takes that to heart when she says, don't make promises you can't keep, because what I found interesting when she talks to Hannah in the last episode, and Hannah's like, will I ever see you again? Like June does not make any promises to her that she can't keep, like she doesn't say, yes, I'll definitely see you, or yes, she just, I'm going to try, because obviously she is going to try. So I think maybe that's how she parents her daughter, like trying not to do that so she doesn't set her up for the disappointment that she felt with her mom.
Yeah,
exactly. That's what you do. You try to make up the mistakes that you feel maybe your mom or your parents did with yourself.
Right.
Yeah.
And I do think this scene too is kind of showing like June is obviously not wanting to take any risks here. And she's, she wants to go where there's hospital, where she feels safe, like in the hospital and with medicine. And Holly tells her, like, you're
Mhm.
stronger than you think. And I think this is showing too the journey of how June has made such a change from being anti-risk taking to that's all she does every day now. Like she's becoming more like her mom in that sense.
Yeah.
Right. And she's going back on what her mom has said to her and realizing that she was right a lot of the time, that her way of doing things was just as good, I mean, and it worked in this. She pulls from that.
Yeah, and they have more in common than she thought they did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And actually, Holly keeps her promise in the end, but the only thing is that the flight got delayed. So that's why she wasn't there. She wanted to be there. She went there, but she was held back. But she turned up anyway. So she really took it to heart.
June did say that Hannah was 2 weeks early.
Oh, she
Right.
was.
Yeah.
Back in the beginning of the season.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like Holly was traveling like around her due date,
I don't
Yeah.
know though. Like I feel like if I was June, I would just been like, I knew you weren't gonna make it here. I knew you weren't gonna be here. I get that it's the plane's fault, but I would have just been like, I knew you weren't gonna come. Because she seemed disappointed too. Even though she knew she was gonna be disappointed. Anyway, yes, she gets passed. It was planned.
Yeah. And by the way, if you're saying Hannah was 2 weeks early, it seems that Holly is at least 2 weeks early too, right?
I caught when you said that earlier, Claudia. What did you mean by 8 months pregnant?
Because when the doctor comes to examine June in episode 10, he's like, no, we are not going to induce her now because she's not on her due date, I think.
Because I think he
Yeah,
said
it was
next
close.
week. Yeah, because they were commenting about how, I think it was in episode 9 too. They all kept saying like, it seemed like she was 9 months pregnant because they all kept saying like it's
a week.
Anytime.
It's
kinda.
getting close. And like Serena didn't want to leave her because it was the last month. But I think the doctor said that it was like in another week he would induce her if she didn't go into labor.
Okay, I
Right.
somehow thought he was talking about like 2 weeks later that they will see to it, but yeah, maybe you're right.
Well, in America too, they sometimes let you go 42.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
Yeah.
That's
so
how
they let you go
too.
past 2 here.
Yeah, sure, here too, but
weeks.
since Serena was so vigilant,
Adamant.
yeah, I mean, I don't know how long do you want to wait if someone is high risk.
He didn't want to mess around with her because she's high risk, like
Yeah,
trying
sure.
to induce and all that. Like I think he was trying to say like it's safer for her to go into labor naturally.
Yeah.
Back in current time, June focuses and gets herself back to the garage. And there's no power, so the garage door won't open, and she's unable to manually pull it up. She tries ramming it with the car, which was really a good idea, and I'm surprised it didn't work. And then she goes outside to try to leverage it with a shovel, I think. But after she falls down, she realizes that her water broke.
Her time is up.
This whole scene though, like it's so bad for her. Like it gave me so much anxiety because she's in a garage turning the car on, which is obviously dangerous. And then she's ramming the car against the door, and then she's taking.
What were you
her
gonna do,
shovel.
Ginger? Not start that car?
No, I agree, but I'm just like in my head, I'm like, you're 9 months pregnant, you're high risk, you're alone. Like this is not.
Go
safe.
lay down. Go lay down in Gilead in your house by yourself. No, I know what you're saying. It is.
No,
like
she
a
had no
lot for her.
alternatives, but it's still like just as a viewer, I'm like, no, this is not safe.
Well, and I also like, I know that garages do have manual options because my power went out once and I had to get out.
She
it
tried
didn't
it first. It's the switch which doesn't work because the power is off. Then she goes to the manual, to the pull string, and tries to pull it out open, but it is frozen, so she can't. And then she goes
frozen.
into the
That's
car.
what it was, Claudia.
Yeah.
Okay.
Then she rams the car into it. It doesn't work. And then she goes out and tries to get the snow away, which doesn't work as well because it's frozen and
Gotcha.
she doesn't have the power.
But I love this show. I think I'm going to say this every episode now, but I love this show and the snow and the red. And God, it's so good. It looks so good.
And with the wolf, it was like Little Red Riding Hood to me. I'm like, it's so.
And it was.
It was.
That was not irrelevant.
Yeah.
They talk about that in the book. We'll talk about in the deep dive. Come listen in the deep dive.
She goes into panic so hard. I felt that it was so horrible. She cried and
Oh, no. Because that was gone, finally.
yeah,
Like,
she can't go. Yeah.
Her time is up.
that's the moment where her dream of escape and having her baby in a hospital in Canada and being free afterwards, that's just gone in an instant.
But I think it's heartbreaking too to realize like she's realizing she's alone. Like it's not that she could go into labor. Like because she had contractions earlier, but your water breaking obviously means like now it's imminent,
Yeah.
So
That's
Mhm.
it.
and now she truly has to do this all by herself, knowing
Mhm.
that she's high risk.
Right.
It's such a heartbreaking moment to watch that. Oh,
She also loses the hope of being free because
Yeah.
she was so close, like that house, that everything that happens is kind of like a parallel to being in Gilead because everything goes wrong. Everything that
Mhm.
can go wrong goes wrong. I mean, obviously she wasn't going to make it in the car, in the flashy car, but her time was up. Her body kind of like betrayed her because that was it,
Yep.
Yeah, but I think she still thought maybe she can do it afterwards with the baby, maybe because only when she goes, she starts to bleed later.
yeah, the blood.
Yeah, that's when the point of no return, when she knows she can't do anything, she just has to call them. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, that's the. Somehow they take us even further down below this moment.
Yeah.
And I think I can't go any further down.
I know, it's so heartbreaking because, like, again, like I said at the last episode, all the things that this poor woman went through just in the last like 24 to 36 hours
Yeah.
is just
Okay.
so traumatizing,
So
and it just
Mhm.
keeps on going. It's like,
Ah,
how much more can one human handle?
Oh, there'll be
Yeah.
more. There'll be more, Ginger.
I know, but it's
Yeah.
just like, it's heartbreaking.
All right, so then she goes inside and builds a fire and lays down. And she's like, I love that she's like, all right, I gotta make this, I gotta do this. I gotta do
Mhm.
this and do this safely as I can. So she goes inside, she builds herself a fire
And a bed.
and a bed. Yeah.
She goes, she sits down, or she doesn't lie down immediately. She goes down to make herself comfortable, and suddenly she realizes something is wrong, and she gets this extreme pain,
Yeah.
and then she passes out.
I did wonder though, like if I mean, was she bleeding because she's high risk, or did anything that she just did in that garage have anything to do with
God,
it? Or
Ginger
was
is
it
so upset.
She tried to get the fucking door open, then she slipped, she fell onto
Mhm.
Yeah,
the
you're
bed.
right. There's a lot.
Yeah.
That's why I feel like it's probably a little bit of everything.
It is.
Yeah.
Making-
It
And then
is.
she still, after falling down and having contractions, she goes in and makes herself a bed and makes the fire. So she's still doing things, and her body just gives out, and the placenta, it's so much blood. I think just it looks like it was the placenta rupturing. And she had this extreme pain. So I thought that was the moment it happened. Because afterwards, when she wakes up again, there's the blood everywhere.
So after she passed out, she's remembering Hannah's birth or dreaming of it, and June's asking for an epidural, and she doesn't. Does she not give it to her in Hannah's
No,
birth?
she's too early.
Yeah, so she
Yeah.
never gets it. Is that one unmedicated or?
I think she
No.
probably does eventually, but just not then.
Okay.
They wanted her to progress more because sometimes it can slow your labor if you get the epidural. So they wanted her to
Gotcha.
get a little more time in.
I thought this show, I guess, wanted to show that Hannah's birth was, she had all the people and the medication and the playlists and the people bringing her water and like every possible thing you could have versus this unmedicated birth by herself. But anyway, so yeah, she's asking for epidural. It's too early, and it's adorable that both Moira and Luke have made June labor playlists. And Moira makes fun of Luke's, but June's nice about it for like a minute. And she asks about her mom, even though she expected she's going to disappoint her. She's still disappointed that she's not there. And Moira goes to text her, and June's going through a contraction. She's like, "What the fuck is this song? I hate this song." And what was that song? Sorry, whoever made that song. I'm sure it's lovely, but it did. Like as I was listening to it, because they just talked about the playlists, I was like, "This is not good labor music." And then in present time, she wakes up and she can feel the moisture, and she puts her hand down there to bring it up and see if it's blood, and it is. And she sits up to look, and it's like, I mean, we saw it first, I guess, before she did that. We saw that the sheet's completely soaked in blood. And then when she like gets up, and you can tell she's nervous to look and see, and Jesus, give this woman a break. How fucking terrifying it would be to be in the situation, period. And then this happens, and then like you haven't had the baby yet or anything, and there is just blood everywhere.
I think that's the moment that she like resigns herself to the realization, like, I may die, we may not make it out of here, like this may not go well, and hope is gone once again, freedom,
Ugh.
like any chance of freedom now, because she knew she'd have to ask for help.
It's so sad and scary to see that. Oh.
The script talks about that. It says, what you guys were talking about earlier, maybe it was the fall by the garage. Maybe it's because hers is a high risk pregnancy, like the doctor said. But this much blood isn't normal for labor. Neither is pain severe enough to make her pass out. And then there's the other voiceover that I talked earlier when she's talking to the baby and says, no one's looking for us. No one except your father even knows where we are. And if he could, he would have come for us. He would have by now.
I wish they kept that.
Yeah.
Oh.
And then that's when she realizes, and this next scene is so heartbreaking because I didn't realize at first when I saw it. I'm like, what is she doing? And then I was like, no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's taking care of her baby. She's such a
Yes.
good mom,
Mhm.
She knows the baby has to get out now.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Now.
And she may die and the baby needs help,
Yeah.
Like,
Yep.
And what she says, it's like,
Yes.
I know, I promised you. I'm sorry. That was the heartbreaking part.
Mm-hmm.
Gonna be okay.
I do think it's a good thing she didn't end up shooting at the Waterfords because she needed those bullets.
Yep.
Yes.
She had more.
She has a contraction, then the wolf is back, and she fires 2 shots, and then the wolf is
Mhm.
gone, and then 2
Yep.
more shots, and then here I am, come and get me.
Yep.
Oh God, that was so devastating.
Yeah.
We'll talk a little bit more in the deep dive, but the wolf, in a way, symbolized like wildness and freedom and
Mm-hmm.
She didn't even flinch shooting that shotgun. Jesus.
Yes,
know.
Those things have a kickback.
It's tough.
held it tight to her shoulder.
Yeah.
the remnants of the smoke hit
Mm-hmm.
her face, and she doesn't. Yeah, I was impressed, really.
She's badass.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
When she told the baby, I know I promised you it's going to be okay. It's a little similar to the Hannah conversation. I feel like she's making promises as a mom, like we talked about in another episode, that you try everything to keep and it's just outside of your capabilities, getting the baby out. So she says, after she fires the gun and the wolf is gone, here I am, come and get me. And then she's back in front of the fire on her knees.
I love that June gets completely undressed. Like,
Mm-hmm.
no shit given. She knows somebody will come, and she's like, I'm going to do this, like, all in.
It's
Yep.
as raw and
Primal and
exactly
Yeah.
primal
mm-hmm.
and natural, and
Natural.
she's going all natural, quite literally
Yep.
all natural with this. And also, like, Elizabeth Moss doing that as an actress is kind of amazing. Like the
Yeah.
amounts of effort and sacrifices and vulnerability that she's willing to put into this role to make it the absolute best that it can be is amazing to me.
Yeah.
I believe it took 2 days to film the scene. It was her, the director, and somebody else only.
Okay.
But like considering she's never given birth, I just think
Yes.
she's just phenomenal. Like it's so believable.
Yeah, she nailed it.
I would never have known.
No, you would think obviously this woman has given birth
Right,
because
like obviously.
she obviously must know how it feels, but she
It
does.
was so good.
And that's coming from 5 women that have given birth.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
Very believable.
Yeah.
Basically, we'll never stop praising her for how talented she is.
No.
No. And actually, this was the first scene I ever saw about Handmaid's Tale. There are doctors on YouTube, and they are reacting to scenes from hospital shows like ER or Grey's Anatomy,
Oh, cool.
something like that. And she's a gynecologist,
Mhm.
and I love her. She's really great, and she gives really amazing information about all of this. And she reviewed this scene, and I didn't know that the series existed at all because it wasn't available here.
Mhm.
And I saw this one scene, June giving birth, and I was so amazed. And then I looked it up and I wanted to see it, and I couldn't because it wasn't available. So I had to wait 2 more years, I think.
Oh my God.
Wow.
Yeah.
It was very patient of you. And then you remembered it still?
Yeah.
She's like, I am determined to watch
Yeah,
it.
when it came up, I saw the title and I was like, okay, I have to watch it now. And of course,
That's cool.
I was spoiled because I knew she was going to have the baby from Nick. I knew she was having the baby at some point. I knew she was going to have it alone. So Yeah, but it was the only spoiler I got, but it was the best.
Mm-hmm.
So she's in like active labor, giving birth. Contractions are obviously like super close. We're getting really close to it. And I really love the montage of all these people that are giving her strength, you know? Even the awful red center that we all hate, she's drawing on that for strength because it does teach them how to give unmedicated birth, you know, the breathing.
But they do it with the power of women, though, like the power of your team, your friends, your
yeah, and she's back to Janine's birth, and then also Luke and Moira are giving her strength now. Like she's drawing on strength from everybody but Nick.
I had an observation though. I thought it was interesting though that like she says to Luke to go fuck himself. And then after she said, because he said like, are you ready? And she's like, go fuck yourself. She's like, I love you, but go fuck yourself. But then she turns to Moira, and Moira is like, you can do this. And it's like she's depending on her like more than him, I guess, for strength. Which then when you see her in the Red Center, like flashing back to them practicing, they do focus on Moira. So,
I know.
So I feel like Moira is kind of like her strength.
Oh, for sure.
And Moira did this before her, right?
After, because Hannah was like,
yeah, right. This was after. Yeah, Hannah.
I thought the same thing. I was like, Moira went first.
But Moira, I think in general gives her strength because even back in season 1, like she was telling her like, get your shit together and you can do this.
Right.
I think it's just a parallel to how strong or how stronger we can be if we stick together as well. You know, I think motherhood is something that defines all women, even those that don't precisely have a journey with motherhood because they choose not to be mothers or they can't be mothers, unfortunately. But it's kind of what defines us as women. It's what we're judged on.
They still have mothers.
This episode is kind of that, you know, and that the fact that she does this alone, in the end, you know, even if we're with somebody or we're alone, it's something that we do. So
I actually start to cry every time when the montage comes up. It's the one point when June starts to scream like shortly before the baby comes out, and then there's the montage and you see her thinking of all her friends and everybody is supporting her, and then the baby comes out and I'm bawling every time. It's so raw.
But I think also too, like the moment when her and Holly are just laying there and she looks so peaceful and the baby's not crying and they're just kind of staring at each other, like it's so bittersweet because they're getting their one moment of peace together and nobody can take that away from them. Like if she gave birth in the Waterford house, they'd be ripping that child away from her. So like it's so beautiful and so heartbreaking, just like the birth of her being alone yet having all these people with her in spirit. It's just
I loved it. Yeah. It was a beautiful thing. It was the best possible outcome for her to be able to be alone and to, you know, give birth to her baby without weirdness going on, like Serena panting in the next room. And then to bond with her baby. She gets to hold it, put her to her skin and talk to it. So bittersweet.
And she remembers the same moment with Hannah and Luke and Moira, and her mom finally gets there. And June doesn't wait, you know, she's not mad. She's just really happy to see her and proud of herself when her mom Holly says, you did it. And then she looks at present time, her daughter, and names her Holly after her mom. And it's so sweet. And I don't think she could have a better name.
No, it's perfect.
I agree.
And then she tells her about her big sister Hannah and how one day she's going to meet her.
And again, I was getting a bit mad because she talks about Hannah to her baby. She only has a few minutes with the baby and she talks about Hannah, but she doesn't talk about the daddy of the baby.
I know. And we did see Luke and we did see everybody else. So it is kind of upsetting that Nick, also her support person, who, you know, if he was there would be,
oh my God,
what she would need to get through, you know. So
also, can we imagine for 1 minute how Nick feels right now, wherever the hell he is?
Oh God,
freaking out. She's been left by herself.
I mean, he was freaking out in the last episode when he was in Fred's office and up in his apartment
flipping his lighter.
So this has got to be worse because he knows she's all by herself.
And then there's the last voiceover. I keep on going with this limping and mutilated story because I want you to hear it, as I will hear yours too if I ever get the chance. If I meet you, or if you escape in the future or in heaven by telling you anything at all, I'm believing in you. I believed you into being because I'm telling you the story. I will you your existence. I tell, therefore you are. We did it, Holly.
Oh, And the car pulls out.
That's so sweet.
Mm.
And it's interesting too because Holly just told her like you did it, and that's her mom,
Yeah.
Holly. And in this case, she's talking to her baby, probably, and her mom. We did it, Holly. Like all the generations. There's just so much weaved into all of this, and it's beautiful storytelling.
And I think she says that we did it, Holly, after the car pulls up, right? So she notices that they both managed to be alive when
Yep.
they
Mhm.
find them.
Right.
So
Then they play Bruce Springsteen again, and the
Yeah.
credits.
one script note after June names the baby Holly. This is her real name, no matter what name they give her in Gilead. I just wanted to point that out. I don't know if we should keep it, but
I
it's
like
in the
that.
script.
Yep.
Okay, we couldn't have ended that on a better note. That is a wrap on our spoiler-free analysis into season 2, episode 11 of The Handmaid's Tale. If you are a longtime fan, come join us on Wednesday for our deep dive into this episode. And if you're a Shining Girls fan, come join us tomorrow to discuss episode 6 of Shining Girls. And if you're not, maybe you should give it a try. Thanks for listening.
Bye.
You know, I think about us, the three of us, what we could be. I think about it all the time.
Please. It's terrible.
No, it's not. I know June. She's my friend. I care about her. How's your day going? You look pretty.
Thanks. I wore it just for you. Her father's a driver named Nick. He helped me to survive. Yes, you can, because I can't lose you.
I'm not gonna let anything happen to you.
What about you?
Your girlfriend is a badass.